feel like when it comes to fitness buzzwords, nothing says try hard quite like a 40-year-old hybrid athlete. It's replaced CrossFit surely as the thing most likely to be told about as soon as you meet someone. Hey bro, I drink AG1, I cold plunge, and I'm a hybrid athlete. Now the word hybrid comes from the offspring of two different animals, like a horse and a donkey making a mule. That kind of sounds a little bit like hybrid fitness when you look at it with squinty eyes. Now what is it really? The guy who created hybrid training is a guy called Alex Viada. Came up with the term, knew it was going to sell really well, and was a deliberate attempt to package something that was basically lifting weights and running. So it is the combination of two different things forming one new animal. And what it attempted to do was take this thing called the Conjugate Training system and apply it to riding, running, and lifting weights all at the same time. It was made popular by a guy called Louis Simmons at a powerlifting club called Westside Barbell, which is a really famous powerlifting club with many world champions and world record holders in it. Like with most things in strength and conditioning though, it wasn't invented by one guy recently, it was invented by the Russians quite a long time ago. And what it is an advanced method of training multiple qualities of the same fitness quality in a period of time. For instance, using strength, they have three main days called the dynamic effort day, the maximal effort day, and the repetition effort day. So it basically means speed, heavy, and high rep as the way we're going to gain strength by focusing on these three different areas. But that means if you're a hybrid athlete and you're applying the conjugate model, you'd be doing the same to running. So you'd have a max speed day, you'd have a threshold day, and then you'd have a long, easy run day for your volume day. And when you're looking at managing this creates a really big problem. And the problem is that now you need to understand strength training really well to figure out how to balance those things. You need to understand run training really well to figure out how to integrate those. And then you really need to have a lot of experience to put all those things together into a single week and make it all work seamlessly without getting you hurt or too fatigued to continue training for the rest of the month. But by far, the biggest issue with using conjugate training is that it's an advanced training model. And the real question you need to ask at this point is, are you advanced? Luckily for us, the Russians, being as systematic as they are, came up with a way to classify whether or not you're really advanced or you're actually just a beginner. In their sports classification system, they have this thing called MMS, Meritorious Master of Sport. This is the kind of person who goes to the Olympic Games and wins a medal. Then you might have Master of Sport, or MS. That's someone who's maybe a national champion. And then CMS, Candidate Master of Sport, and that's someone who might be a state champion or maybe a lower level competitor at a national level. And then you've got category 1, 2, and 3. Anything below category 3 and you're a beginner. Now, category 3 in powerlifting, according to their system, for an 82.5 kilo guy, so that's about 100 to 185 pound guy, means that you need a 485 kilo total. That adds up to meaning that you need both 180 kilo squat and deadlift and 125 kilo bench press to be anything other than an absolute beginner. When you look at those numbers, you have to ask yourself, am I actually hitting the bare minimum required to be considered above a beginner, or am I genuinely in the beginner status pile? And when it comes to running, they've been just as helpful, and they have the same classification system for running. And what it says is that for classification 3, remember the bare minimum to be anything other than an absolute beginner, you need a 17:55 5,000 meters or you're a beginner. Just for people not sure about what that means you need to be able to run 5 kilometers at a 3:35 per kilometer pace back to back to back to back to back. So at this point, what most people should be realizing is you're not a conjugate athlete because you're not advanced, and there's probably something else you should be doing. Again, luckily for us, the Russians come to the rescue and they have this training system called the concurrent system. Now I know this sounds like a little play on words, concurrent and conjugate sound very similar, but the truth is they're slightly different. Now what concurrent says is that an athlete develops multiple physical qualities simultaneously. So that's all physical qualities like power, speed, strength, endurance, anaerobic endurance, everything all at the same time. It seeks to build a well-rounded athlete by combining these several qualities into a single training plan. And doesn't that actually sound like what you're after, rather than being a master of only two things? And as you can see, this concurrent system is specifically designed for the vast majority of us other than elite athletes. It's a much smarter way to train than trying to follow a conjugate model for the non-advanced athlete. The key difference for most of us is in the prioritization of training goals and the flexibility it allows you to build into a training cycle. As always, when building a training plan, the number one goal is figure out what your end goal really is. Is it mass gain? Is it strength gain? Is it a running race? Once you start to figure out your priorities, then it makes figuring out the training sessions within that plan much easier. Now, just to throw a spanner in the mix, we do need to consider health and longevity here and not just outright performance. Because again, if we were considering outright performance, you'd be 20 years old and heading to the Olympics, not 40 to 45 years old and wondering how to have a healthy and long, happy life. Minimum effective dose guidelines for exercise say 3 cardiovascular sessions a week and 2 strength sessions as a nice round number for health and longevity. As this study here shows, physical activity is the single best predictor of longevity. When it comes to figuring out how to structure your week as a general guideline, there's no ceiling for moderate cardiovascular activity that can be found. However, vigorous activity, and this includes weightlifting as well, tops out at about 150 minutes per week. That's like 3 45-minute sessions roughly to give you an idea of the total amount of time that you'd want to devote to vigorous activity. As a general goal, you want at least 2 hours of that to be outside because of the powerful effects that being outside has on us, both from a hormonal point of view as well as from a nervous system point of view, because it de-stresses the body. And finally, you need to allow for adequate rest, recovery, and recuperation time. Because you're now training more, you need a higher recovery load, not less. Don't get sucked into the trap that many type A hybrid triathlete kind of people get pulled into, where they think they need to train more. You only improve when you rest enough to allow those adaptations to be evident. Now, when it comes to adding in endurance volume, running really cops a lot of flack for the amount of injuries it produces, but that's usually because people are silly about the way they try to progress their running volume. As a general recommendation, you should only be adding 10% per week to the total volume. That means this week, if you did 3 by 30-minute runs, next week is 3 by 33-minute runs, then 3 by 36-minute runs, 3 by 40-minute runs, 3 by 45-minute runs, and so on until you finally work your way up to 3 by 60-minute runs over a period of about 8 weeks. Most people start at 3 by 30 minutes, they do 1 week of that, then they try to jump up to running for an hour or double the volume and wonder why they get hurt. As another example of this, I wrote a walk-run program many years ago. You can find it on the Whole Life Challenge website. It takes you from no running at all up to running for 60 minutes pain-free over a period of about 12 weeks, and as far as I know, has never caused any injuries. Most people, though, are not patient enough to spend 12 weeks building up to a 60-minute run. Now, when it comes to running and riding, people think you just go out and go nuts, but mechanics matter. If you think about something as simple as the squat in the gym, where on a flat surface in a controlled environment, you might do 3 sets of 10 or a total of about 30 reps. Maybe you went crazy and you did 4 sets of 10, you did 40 reps, big deal. In running, you're going to take between 160 and 180 steps per minute. That means in the first 15 to 20 seconds of you going running, you'll have already hit 40 reps of movement. If you go riding, the same thing is going to happen, where you're going to hit 80 to 90 RPM. You're going to take care of 40 reps of movement in the first half a minute. If any of those reps are performed poorly, when you add them up over time, like going for a run for half an hour, you'll do over 5,000 reps of your running mechanics. If you're even slightly out of alignment, you will cause problems for yourself. And that's because tissue adaptation takes time. Now, I'm not saying you can't run like Gumby, but I'm saying if you want to run a long distance like Gumby, you have to allow your body to get used to it. Tissue adaptation in general takes between 4 to 6 weeks when you look at the studies, but other studies show as long as 12 weeks. Again, when you look at my walk-run program that's so successful at building up running endurance, you can see how beneficial it is to slow down and take your time building up run volume rather than try to leap in it with both feet and wonder why you got hurt running like Gumby. And now this leads us to, again, the prioritization of what we're actually aiming to accomplish. Is it strength? Is it hypertrophy? Is it running? Knowing what your goals are and what you're aiming to achieve will make setting your training plan much better. As an example for me, I don't actually try to gain weight. One, I don't need to buy a new wardrobe. I really don't want to go and spend tons of money buying new pants and new shirts and all that kind of stuff. But my hobbies actually include things where I have to haul my fat ass up a hill. The heavier I get, the harder that's going to be. My goals are to be as strong and as fit as possible while being as light as possible. Maybe those aren't your goals, so maybe the style of training I follow isn't the way you should be training. Further to that, If you're into running and riding outside, you'll find that added size makes those things harder. However, it won't impact indoor riding or rowing at all. So if those are the ways you like to get cardio, then add as much size as you want, but you will find it detrimental to your overall run and riding performance outside. And if you do want to go down the hypertrophy muscle mass gaining phase, make sure to minimize the amount of cardiovascular activity you're doing so that you actually have spare energy and be in a slight surplus so you can put on some muscle mass. So when you're looking at ways to put your training together and you want to be hybrid, urge you not to pick an advanced training model when you're not advanced. Focus on health and quality of life first, and don't be led astray by oversized, drug-fueled influencers who make everyone think they need to be as big as a house to go and run a marathon. And use a concurrent training model to enhance not just your athletic performance, but all of your life and make yourself healthier, rather than just focus on what you do in the gym or running around a track.